Respiratory and circulatory systems in racing pigeons. The respiratory and circulatory systems of racing pigeons play a critical role in supporting the high energy demands required for flight. During racing or training, a pigeon's oxygen consumption can increase up to 15 times higher than resting levels, and up to 30 times higher when flying into headwinds. To sustain such dramatic increases in energy expenditure, maintaining optimal respiratory and cardiovascular health is paramount for competitive racing pigeons. Any impairments in these systems can severely compromise a bird's performance. Respiratory system. The unique respiratory anatomy of birds allows for the extreme elevations in oxygen consumption needed for flight. Birds have a complex system of air sacs that integrate with the lungs to facilitate continuous, one-way airflow through the respiratory system. This arrangement maximizes gas exchange efficiency. There are 9 air sacs paired bilaterally that surround the lungs and occupy space within the body cavity. The posterior and anterior thoracic sacs connect directly to the lungs, while the abdominal and cervical sacs do not. During inhalation, fresh air travels through the trachea where it passes continuously through the lungs and into the posterior and anterior thoracic sacs. Simultaneously, stale air flows out of the abdominal and cervical sacs unidirectionally. This cross-current system maintains airflow and gas exchange even during expiration. The air sacs play several crucial roles. They function as bellows to move air through the lungs. The abdominal sacs act as reservoirs to store inspired air and regulate the volume of air passing through the lungs. The interconnected nature of the sacs equalizes pressure differences that occur during respiration. In addition, the air sacs extract oxygen from capillaries over a broad surface area. Any respiratory disease or dysfunction involving the air sacs can dramatically impact a racing pigeon's performance. Inflammation, infection or physical damage to the air sacs reduces their bellows action and impairs airflow. This decreases oxygen supply to the tissues and prevents elimination of carbon dioxide. Muscle cramping, fatigue, and inability to fly result. Upper respiratory infections are also detrimental. Sinusitis, rhinitis or tracheitis cause swelling and mucus production in the nasal passages, sinuses or trachea. This inflames and obstructs the upper airways. Airflow is impaired, heat dissipation becomes difficult, and body temperature regulation is disrupted. During intense flights, racing pigeons can experience dramatic elevations in body temperature that must be controlled through respiratory evaporation and panting. However, upper respiratory inflammation induces panting even at rest as a compensatory mechanism. Excessive panting leads to dehydration through water loss, compounding the effects of heat stress. Pigeons out of optimal physical condition frequently display open beak panting during or after training flights, especially in hot weather or high winds. However, prolonged panting can also indicate underlying respiratory infection rather than simple exertion. Careful observation is required to distinguish normal post-flight recovery panting from that associated with illness. The nasal passages warrant particular attention due to their role in heat regulation through modulation of inspiratory air temperature and humidity. Any obstruction or narrowing of the nasal cavity from inflammation will impair this process. Swelling of the nasal corona at the entrance to the nasal cavity is a common sign of upper respiratory infection. Pigeons may also exhibit swelling of the ear canal openings, discharge from the eyes, or excess mucus in the oral cavity. Close monitoring of the nose, eyes and ears is essential during the racing season. The throat region also provides key insights into a pigeon's respiratory status. Located at the junction between the oral cavity and trachea, the throat serves as the gateway through which inhaled air enters the respiratory system. Careful evaluation of the throat provides valuable information on a bird's overall health and race readiness. 2 fleshy protrusions known as the glottis curtain hang downward on each side of the glottis, the opening to the trachea. The condition of these curtains offers visual cues about respiratory function. Ideal characteristics to look for include: color should be vibrant pink without inflammation or irritation. Pallor or discoloration often indicates illness. Texture, curtains should be smooth. Cracking, flaking or ulceration suggests disease. Position, hanging straight down with a fine separation between them. Excessive parting of the curtains implies poor muscle tone or weakness. Wrinkling, some horizontal wrinkling is normal when relaxed. Deep wrinkles may signal dehydration or recent strenuous activity. Movement, curtains should open synchronously and briskly with each breath. Uneven motion or weak opening can mean respiratory issues. Suboptimal findings on throat examination warrant further medical evaluation to identify and resolve any underlying problems before racing. However, there are caveats to keep in mind when inspecting the throat. Avoid periods of excitement, stress, and elevated respiratory rate can temporarily alter the throat's appearance. Ideal time for evaluation is when the bird is calm and rested. Consider age. Young pigeons may naturally have slightly more separation of the glottis curtains. Parameters tighten with maturity. Note breeding status. Dramatic dilation of the glottis occurs during courtship displays in breeding birds. Assessment should be done outside of mating season if possible. Recognize molting. Feather shedding places metabolic demands on birds which can affect throat metrics like wrinkling and color. Best to delay evaluation until after molt. With experience and attention to these details, handlers can become skilled at reading the throat for insights into a pigeon's respiratory health and conditioning. This allows early detection of issues which might compromise stamina and performance. Regular throat checks are recommended as part of a comprehensive wellness regimen heading into and during the racing schedule. Circulatory system. The circulatory system also plays an integral role in delivering oxygen while removing carbon dioxide and metabolic waste products. Pigeons have a 4-chambered heart like mammals, with complete separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. This allows for efficient systemic and pulmonary circulation. A strong heart and cardiovascular system are required to meet the uptick in cardiac output and blood flow demanded during flight. Heart rate increases from around 180 beats per minute at rest to over 500 bpm during sustained exertion. Stroke volume can triple. Blood vessels must accommodate this heightened workload and flow rate. Any limitations or deficiencies will hinder oxygen transport and induce fatigue. One of the main circulatory adaptations that facilitates increased cardiac output in birds is the presence of contractile blood vessels. Known as pulmocutaneous vessels, these specialized arteries contain smooth muscle and pulsate independently, effectively serving as accessory hearts during activity. They branch from the pulmonary arteries to supply the flight muscles, shoulder joint, and skin. Contracting in sync with the heartbeat, these pulsatile vessels enhance blood flow to working muscles. Hardening or loss of elasticity in the pulmonary arteries and pulmocutaneous vessels from atherosclerosis will dampen their pulsations. This impairs their ability to boost circulation during exertion. Stiffening of the aorta or degeneration of heart valves can also develop. All of these issues raise workload on the heart itself, which may lead to arrhythmias, cardiomyopathy, or eventual heart failure. Racing pigeons selectively bred for endurance have more extensive and stronger pulmocutaneous vessels relative to other breeds. Maximizing the development and function of these vessels is key for supplying oxygenated blood to power flight. However, pulmocutaneous health declines with age even in robust pigeon lines. By 4 to 5 years of age, the vessels tend to ossify and lose contractile ability. Beyond the blood vessels themselves, other factors in the circulatory system influence oxygen delivery and aerobic capacity. Hemoglobin transports oxygen in the blood. Levels naturally increase by 30 to 40% during training to enhance oxygen carrying capacity. Anemia will hamper performance. Plasma volume expands up to 25% higher in conditioned pigeons. Plasma delivers oxygen, removes byproducts, and helps regulate temperature. Dehydration compromises these functions. Mitochondria density increases in flight muscle with training, allowing more oxygen utilization for energy production. Insufficient mitochondria limit aerobic respiration. Medical disorders disrupting any part of the cardiopulmonary system will compromise a racing pigeon's cardiovascular performance and stamina. Heart murmurs, chronic arrhythmias, hypertension, pulmonary edema, and blood parasites are examples of problems that can develop. Catching and addressing these issues early is prudent. Routine wellness exams should include listening to the heart and lungs for abnormalities. Testing blood samples for parasites is also advisable. Observant handlers may detect respiratory illness in a bird by watching for open-mouth breathing, nasal discharge, or labored flight. However, some cardiovascular issues may be subtler. A useful non-invasive indicator to monitor is the pigeon's surface body temperature, usually measured at the eye region. Pigeons utilize peripheral vasoconstriction and vasodilation to redirect blood flow and dissipate heat through their non-feathered areas when overheated. Training and genetics enhance this ability. A pigeon that takes longer to cool post-exertion may have inadequate cardiovascular thermoregulation. Of course, the definitive way to identify circulatory limitations that may impinge stamina is to evaluate racing performance itself. Monitoring speed and endurance during training flights provides functional evidence of cardiovascular sufficiency. Sudden declines in a pigeon's speed or endurance warrant closer examination for underlying cardiac or pulmonary causes. Through vigilant health monitoring, breeding selection, training adaptation, and prompt treatment of any issues, handlers can help maximize the cardiovascular fitness of their racing team. Pigeons with optimally conditioned respiratory and circulatory function will have a strong advantage come race day.
I'm an experienced ex-pigeon racer from England, and I can offer valuable insights and guidance on all aspects of pigeon racing, from breeding to racing. During my racing days, I managed a small team of no more than 70 pigeons, including stock, young birds, and old birds. It was not uncommon for me to send as few as 6 birds to a race and still secure the top 3 positions out of up to 2,500 pigeons in my club and federation. My race distances typically ranged up to 300 miles, and I consistently achieved top 5 placements in my club. My expertise extends to the art of selecting excellent breeders, including evaluating pigeons based on their eye sign characteristics. I firmly believe that true champions can only be bred from top quality stock, and I can guide you in identifying and acquiring such pigeons. I understand that many pigeons for sale are advertised based on their lineage or pedigree, but I emphasize the importance of assessing the bird itself rather than relying solely on paperwork. As part of my offer, I invite you to share photos of your pigeons, including their eye sign and wing characteristics. I'll provide you with free advice on racing and breeding based on my extensive experience and knowledge. Additionally, I will share auction links to high-quality breeding birds that have the potential to produce winners in your loft. Here's what you can expect to receive from me. A comprehensive Word document containing valuable insights and strategies for successful pigeon racing, including specific racing methods for both old and young birds, as well as general advice. Private YouTube videos sent to your email, covering various aspects of pigeon racing, from breeding to race preparation. Detailed recommendations on supplements and additives to add to your pigeon's drinking water, with scientific evidence supporting their effectiveness. Similar products are used by professional athletes and racehorses to enhance performance. Assurance that your pigeons will race home faster, provided that you have quality birds to begin with. While I can provide guidance, it's essential to start with pigeons of good genetic quality. Guidance on feeding schedules and methods, tailored from Sunday to Saturday, to optimize your pigeon's performance. The understanding that there are no big secrets or magical products that guarantee success in pigeon racing. Instead, success hinges on developing a racing system that suits your loft and pigeons. I'm committed to providing full support even after you receive this information, as I want to see you succeed in pigeon racing. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or need further assistance. Remember, the key to winning in pigeon racing lies in knowledge, dedication, and continuous improvement.